More proof that liberals don't care about you, the tax-paying American citizen. Democrat-run New York City shutting down an entire school and forcing kids to learn remotely today, just so they can house 2,000 illegals from a storm. The migrant move infuriating the hell out of parents.
Why at the cost of our children? Why at the health of our children? Because we're bringing the kids back and we're not sure what was used, what was sanitized. There's drugs, there are knives, there are needles, there's guns.
One of the teachers didn't show up. She said good morning, gave him on the side and said goodbye.
It is very disruptive when you come and take over our school. And it's not even fair to the migrants as well. We told you that this is not sustainable and we need a better sustainable plan.
Dana, can you get more of a cause and effect of liberal policies? You take outside burdens as a policy that you cannot handle, and who suffers? The actual citizens. This is the welfare state in a nutshell.
They're going to push people to a point where, whereas, was it 7 or 8 years ago when President Trump was first in office, people were outraged at the idea of any sort of deportation. Mm-hmm. They're going to push people who might have said that Trump was in the wrong to the point where they're saying, yeah, out without any sort of hearing, because this is getting to be outrageous. We already know that remote learning was a disaster for tax-paying citizens' children, and now this happened again. Plus, the other thing is that this community told the mayor that it wasn't going to work in this area just because when the bad weather comes, there's a lot of wind there, it soaks up all the water, and they had to go and get the migrants and pull them out of there at 4:30 in the morning. So if you feel bad for the migrants, you'd feel bad for them in that regard. It is a total mess, and if you want to turn a blue state red, this is how you do it.
You know, Jesse, it's the weather. I blame climate change.
You do? They will.
Yeah. Climate change.
I know. I can't believe it. I can't believe these people like Nancy Pelosi keep saying they care about the kids, Greg, because I'm sick of it. No one cares about the kids.
No one.
You inject them with poisonous, sugary chemicals all day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're doing experimental sex change operations on them just to make cash. You're throwing screens in their face, rewiring their brains for money. They're trafficking children all over the world. They're calling it a conspiracy. We take kids out of school for 2 years just so a few teachers could avoid a virus, and then we're going to take them out again because migrants want to come in, while New York has 50% of the office space unoccupied. Why don't they put these migrants in one of these beautiful towers where there's showers instead of sticking in a school with kids? Fauci says that they didn't really lose any learning during the 2 years, so he's still in denial. And Biden's never going to be asked about it, and if he is asked about it, he's going to say, what? He's always pretending like he can't hear. He's like, what? He's just trying to buy time. And then Adams is, he's got this looming indictment, so he's scared out of his mind to do anything about it. It's like they are literally, Greg, replacing American kids. This is not a theory, Jessica. And it's not, I don't know. I mean, call it what it is.
In a tent city the other day.
Excuse me?
I saw a voting booth in a tent city the other day.
Probably, and I know they're going blue.
Judge, what do you make of this? I mean, obviously, terrible weather. You don't want people out in the cold.
Yeah, and that's the point.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, I think anybody who watches this show or knows how I feel about immigration, these are illegal aliens, okay? But you have to have a heart. I mean, yesterday, the weather was horrible. It's apparently for one day. But who's kidding who, Greg? The truth is, these kids are going to end up in our schools anyway. It's just a question of where. They're going to end up in our hospitals. We're going to end up paying for their rent and everything else. So, and by the way, Fauci is a liar. He's not in denial. He's a liar. He's not convinced that the learning loss that our kids suffered was a result of school closures. That is Democrat ideology, okay? It is school closures. But the thing that makes it so obvious where our kids are always paying the price is American kids, when they want to go to that school, they have to scan an ID. An illegal doesn't have to scan an ID. 2,000 of them don't have to scan an ID going into that school. And if you come into this country, and you don't have to be tested for COVID, but Americans had to be tested. We had to take a vaccine. Illegals don't have to take a vaccine. vaccine? Why is it that Americans are taking a second seat to the illegals? And why are they traveling around the country without any ID, without any vaccines that we're aware of, no records? They bypass security. This is an outrage on the part of the Biden administration. And finally, why would you bring 2,000 people into a residential neighborhood? Why are you doing that? It just boggles my mind. A building in New York City or, whatever, a hotel, whatever they were doing all summer. How did the Americans benefit from this? We don't. Because and I know they're going to give them a license sooner or later. They're getting the visas. They're also getting the ability to a work visa. And sooner or later, they're going to be voting. They are now talking about them voting. You want to know why? Because they're going to vote. That's why they're here.
Well, they're going to vote blue.
Definitely.
I just want to be clear about how the replacement theory fully works.
We're clear.
Just for our viewers at home, in case they were a little unclear.
No, they know better than anybody.
Okay. There's bipartisan outrage about this and how this happened. They built this tent facility there because there was a park that had the space to be able to do it. Yesterday's conditions made it so I don't know how anyone survives a day out on the proverbial street from that. And yes, we have to have a heart about it, but it was obviously a tremendous mistake. And then, like Dana said, shipping them out at 4:30 in the morning when they could have stayed till 6 or 7 before school opened makes no sense. And you could give them a breakfast. You have the staff in there that's coming in to do those things. Fauci's obviously completely off base with the no learning loss. And I would add to that the mental health damage and the social emotional progress that these kids missed out on. And one parent, I was reading an interview that she gave, and this was so outrageous. She said that her son logged on, as he should have, at 8:10, whenever school starts, and the teacher didn't show up.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.